Well, strange times, right? My first video of the day is on the Entertainment Guy channel. So, here we are. And there's some stuff I've put together from over the last couple of days. I'll go ahead and reveal to viewers out there who may not have seen from a hockey channel. I do actually have a mask. My wife is making these, and she's been distributing them locally to people who are asking, free of charge, of course. And we're in that society right now where we're already talking about, like, maybe after things recover at some point, we still wear masks if we think we might be ill, or we're in a situation where we're around a lot of people and we don't know who may or may not be sick. So, something that we've seen in Asia for a long time may very well now be a global thing. I don't know. We'll see. Now, speaking of the Asian side of the world, Japanese wrestling now has fans present. Not a ton. We're not talking about a lot of people, but it's a start. They're doing temperature tests on staff, on performers, and on fans entering the arena as well, which is not 100%. Absolutely agreed, it's not 100%, but it is some kind of screening that takes place, and we may see that elsewhere. We'll see, right? This has been this huge global thing that we're going to see how life changes after. I also wanted to talk about, so I watched Legends of Tomorrow's episode with the Romeo and Juliet storyline and Ray and Nora leaving. It seemed kind of clunky to me, to be honest. So Brandon Routh, who plays Ray Palmer on there, he's been vocal about not liking how he was written out, and I get it, because the episode itself just kind of felt like an everyday regular episode. But I'm going to say this to kind of defend the show writers on it. It sort of leaves that feeling that at any point in time anybody could show up or leave from the show. So it does give you that feeling of anything can happen on Legends of Tomorrow, which makes it different from the other shows. And while I love Brandon Routh and I love Nora's actress, the actress who plays Nora as well, as wife, obviously, in real life, as much as I love those characters, it did feel like they'd kind of run their course. You can only have so long where she's the fairy godmother. You can only have so long where he's the Atom and all of that. And it just, I don't know, it felt like, yes, that those characters have run their course, which is how the showrunners explained it. They said that basically it's a crew of people searching for, I don't know, meaning in their life or peace or whatever. And when people find peace, then they leave the ship. They also leave the ship if they're dead. That's something else I found out as well, that they do kill off the odd character here and there, or they disappear out of existence and then they're in the future. Are they ever going to explain what happened with Zari? I mean, really? Like, I love the way that they're sort of slowly turning Zari from the vacuous ninny that she is back into being the Zari that we all know and love, but it feels like they're also making sure they push this whole idea that she's in the bathroom for too long. Why does the Wave Rider have one washroom? Does anybody have any idea at all why they'd have one? Just one. I'm bewildered. It's one of those things where I see them all lining up to use the bathroom, and I'm like, why is there only one? It's a huge ship. Why is there one? Like, I don't, you know, wouldn't there be a men's and women's, or at the very least two? Like, I thought that was weird. I did. I thought that was really, really strange. So yeah, I just, that was what stood out of that whole episode to me. That, and I like the idea of Rory having a daughter and dealing with that. I also like the girlfriend he had that's the mother. Like, I'd like to see that dynamic play out. And they may have said, you know what, if we're going to have this dynamic play out, we have too many characters. And so Ray and Nora were the ones that went. I also want to talk about, so I've seen all the Circle episodes now. We finished it the other night. And I got a kick out of a lot of it. If you haven't watched The Circle, I'll circle back to this then. But I'll say this before I circle back at the end. I don't mean to use the word circle that much. It's just, that's the word. So yeah, catfishing kind of works. And it's interesting how people react these days online. And I thought that was a really interesting sociological side of it. I'd like to pause to thank people for helping this channel reach 1 million total views. Yep, channel's reached 1 million total views. I know from the hockey channel that once you pass certain levels, certain subscriber numbers, certain view counts, just certain overall numbers that your videos get promoted more on YouTube. Thus, part of the reason why I'm doing an Entertainment Guy video first, because, again, I will go where the views are. Something that I've said about the Entertainment Guy channel for a long time, I said this when I was doing football power rankings, was that as long as the views are there, then that's where I will definitely put videos and I'll promote what I'm doing. Because, again, that's kind of how this whole YouTuber thing, the business side of it works. You have to know what works and what doesn't. I had to drop a series I was doing on the hockey guy yesterday because it just wasn't clicking. I wasn't getting the right amount of views, and when I'd look at the revenues at the end of the day, I was like, that doesn't work, because I'm only making about $2 an hour on that content, so it just doesn't work. So I'll come back to it, but that's where, like, and again, on the business side of it, I can have those videos that I do because I really love them and I really enjoy producing them. But if nobody's watching those specific videos, I kind of have to change direction. And I have to say, okay, as much as I enjoyed putting that together, unfortunately, and with history videos, that happens a lot. So with hockey history, I've thought about doing videos on the Super Bowls and starting with the first one that I watched as a kid and going right through. But again, I don't know how well those would be viewed. I don't know how many views I'd get for the amount of work that I'd be putting into it. So at 1 million views, I want to thank everybody who's viewed this channel, whether you're from the hockey channel or whether you just came in here from elsewhere and you don't watch hockey. And thank you. And I am wearing a Bench Clearers jersey. This is actually, it's not a jersey, it's a tank. So it's a tank top from Bench Clearers, which I don't wear them enough because I don't really wear tank tops very often. So, and I really don't wear them in videos. I'm far more likely to be seen out, in the city with them. Not right now, but out in the city with them than I am in videos. I'm much more comfortable in jerseys. Jerseys are very, they hide everything. It's sort of like Kevin Smith lost, what, 100 pounds? Like, he lost so much weight, and yet he's still wearing jerseys, and it does hide weight. It hides weight loss as well. So yeah, next topic is, should WrestleMania be postponed? Now, WrestleMania has been moved to the Performance Center. WrestleMania is the biggest event of the year. And for WWE, I get it. They've got all these other plans. I honestly think if you take WrestleMania and you decide to move it back to July, I don't think anybody would mind right now. I really don't. I think everybody would understand that. So, they're going ahead with it. They're going to have WrestleMania in the Performance Center. It's going to be over 2 nights. I have argued for ages that it should be a 2-day event. And they're going to pre-tape it, which usually I would say, oh, they're pre-taping it. The results are going to leak out. Well, yes, the results will probably leak out. But by pre-taping it, you're able to put in a lot more post-production. You're able to make it look a lot nicer. And that may be the way to go. It may be the way to go that as long as it's empty arenas, why not pre-produce it? Why not record it ahead of time, splice stuff together, and just, you can make it work better. Make it a television show. For WWE, they've fashioned themselves as sport entertainment, so get the entertainment side in there via post-production. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Maybe that's how Mania works. Maybe they end up having a bunch of stuff they can tack in post-production. Do you use canned crowd reactions? I don't think you can. I've thought about, like, can you have a virtual audience? Is there some way to have fans interacting with the content that aren't present? Like, I've thought about, like, are there creative ways to do this, or do you just do what Japan did and just wait until you can have fans in the stands again and then bring the fans back? I also wanted to end with this because there's a lot of just doom. It's doom. Everywhere you look right now, it's just doom. And it's all red arrows, and it's all sell, sell, sell. I think it's important, and I've really restricted how much news I'm watching. I'm still watching it, but I'm restricting how much. And I've recommended this on the hockey channel. I'm recommending it here as well. Being safe and being alert. For instance, there's a doctor locally here that was published an article on the local news site saying, look, there aren't enough people taking this seriously. I'm self-isolating for 14 days. We need people who take this seriously. And it is something that locally I've seen where there are people who just, nothing's changed. Where there, and it has, and it needs to, because we know it's here. We know it's in the city, in Abbotsford. We know it's here. And the sooner that you lock things down, the less that the government needs to lock things down. So that's kind of where things get tricky, is you kind of force the hand of those in charge to say, all right, we have to shut all of it down. But it will rebound. So as somebody who's got a lot of money in RRSPs, I've got a tax-free savings account as well. I'm not overly concerned. I know that there's a lot of money going, and that all of the investments are getting hit, and there's going to be a lot of panic selling. Try your best not to focus on the short term. Look at the long term. If you're still buying into the market, which my money is, every month buys into the market, you're buying in right now as it's dropped and is dropping, and eventually it does go back up. Eventually there is some kind of a balance that gets restored. Whether it's you look back 100 years to the Depression, you look back to after 9/11, you look back to every financial crash, 1987 as well. It always rebounds. So I understand that, you know, there's a lot of concern and whatnot. I'm just doing what I can to distance myself from others, which has gone quite well. Being in your house does that, and it'll come back. The one thing too is that right now the U.S. dollar has soared. So if you have a business in the U.S. that really relies on overseas sales, it's going to get hit. And for me personally, I'm in a room full of items made by Adidas. This whole rack here is all Adidas. The prices are going to go through the roof because they kind of have to. Because the Canadian dollar against the American dollar has lost, I think it's like 12% since all this started, because the American dollar is so strong. People take their money, and this is what always happens. People invest in gold. People put their money in the dollar. Now there's talk about solvency issues. Just, again, the reality is this is going to get bad. This is going to be kind of, you know, a tough time. But I do believe we come out the other side, and it'll rebound, which means the American dollar at that point will take a bit of a nosedive. But that helps companies that are shipping overseas. A really strong dollar doesn't necessarily fix the economy. And this is something that I know we've had this discussion a lot in Canada, where, you know, when the Canadian dollar has been really strong, it has hurt some industries while it has helped others. It has hurt some jobs as well, because I know there are plenty of American companies that have factories or facilities in Canada, and when the Canadian dollar is really strong, they're like, well, wait, if it's more expensive for me to pay the Canadians right now, why don't I just open up something in the States? So that's a real thing. And again, this is how everything works. And we'll see how it all settles out after. But there will be an after. How long that takes, nobody has an... I mean, there are models. There are models all over the place that, oh, it's going to take X amount of years, months, weeks, months, years, months, weeks. I take a look at those models and I go, we're in uncharted territory. So we can only kind of use computer models to guess and hope that we end up on the lower side of things, rather than that we don't want. That's not good. That's not... The spike is not good. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support, for helping this channel pass 12,000 subscribers, for helping it reach 1 million views. And to finish this off, I want to come back to the circle. Again, if you've watched till the end, great. If you haven't and you intend to watch it, honestly, it's not a bad watch. And if Joey aggravates you, don't worry, he settles down. He aggravated the hell out of me the first, I want to say, 3 episodes, and then he really settled down. It was really quite nice. By the end of it, I was like, you know what? He's okay. It's just that first few episodes, just, oh my God. So Catfish, you know, it's interesting that on this show, there were times where they would vote people out thinking they were when they weren't. There were people that they trusted who were catfish, and they didn't realize it. And this is the era we live in now, where we talk online and we see avatars on the screen. Maybe we see a Facebook profile. Maybe we see a whole Twitter profile. Maybe we see a whole social media web. And yet we can look at that and go, I don't think this person's who they say they are. And I had my own experience with that, I want to say 4 years ago, where there was this one girl who had been talking to me, and something didn't add up. So I looked at the fact that she was always cycling through the same pictures, but it looked like people were cropped out. So that was unusual. People were cropped out. And then I noticed none of her pictures had any comments from anybody who'd been around her. Like there was no, oh, that was a fun night. There was no, there's my little girl. There's, there was no that you'd normally see on family pictures on Facebook, right? And there was never anything new. So there would be like 8 or 10 pictures she'd just cycle through. And I thought, she's this pretty blonde girl, but she's not taking a new picture. So she told me where she went to school when she graduated and what she was doing for work. So the first thing I did was I thought, oh, it sounds like a fun job. So I looked it up and I was like, okay, according to their own website, she doesn't qualify for that job. So I was like, huh, that's weird. Because it said students only. If you're not a student at this university, you can't apply. So I was like, okay, so that's, huh. I kind of asked her, like, oh, and you're all done your school? Oh, yeah, I don't go to school anymore. Oh, okay. Huh. And then I would talk to her about, like, movies I watched in the 80s and music I listened to in the 80s. She knew all of it. And I was like, that sounds like you're my age. And just some of the things that she'd say in passing, I'd be like, yeah, you're not young. You're about my age. And then I looked up, there was actually, for that high school, there was actually a whole grad class thing. And I'm like, she's not in any of these. She's not anywhere. She's not there. And then I went through the exhausting process of saying to myself, okay, so if she lives in this town, she'd have to have a friend on her list that lives in the same town she does, right? Not one. And I was like, and catfish. So I took all of that information and I went to her and I said, so there's one thing that, if we're friends, we have to have a talk. And I brought all that information to her and she's like, you're stalking me. And I said, not really, no. I said, I'm just trying to find out what your deal is because, we've been talking a lot and I'm not sure what's going on here. Like, she never asked me for money. There was never any ask for money, which catfish will know, at some point, like, oh, can you send me $50? I need help. But there was definitely something wrong, and I knew there was something that wasn't right about it. Because she always talked about being busy, but she was never out of the house. So, I just said, I just want to know who I'm really talking to. I said, I'm not, there's no judgment here. I just need to know who I'm really talking to. She's like, well, I'm exactly who I say I'm on Facebook. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not. And I went through all the stuff I discovered, and she got really mad. And I said, if you want to prove me wrong, I said, you just take a picture of yourself, flipping the bird, I don't care, with a piece of paper that just says on it, I am who I say I am. That's it. And I said, if you do that, then it proves that I'm absolutely full of crap. I will apologize vehemently. And she blocked me. So I went to a couple of mutual friends online that we had, and I said, have you ever met this person in real life? And they went, actually, no. And I was like, how long have you been friends with her? And they're like, years. And I'm like, and you live like how far away? And they're like, I'm only 20 minutes away. I'm like, she's never talked about meeting you face to face. And they said, no. And I said, then ask her if she wants to be face to face and see what happens. And no, didn't want to meet anybody face to face. And I think the circle has shown that we're a little more conscious about that now than we used to be. We used to take things on face value and we don't anymore. But sometimes that radar doesn't work. Sometimes that radar really doesn't work, as one of the catfish gets all the way through to the finale. Now, people had started figuring out something was wrong, and so that's why he doesn't win. So Seaburn, who plays Rebecca in the game, you can tell with Seaburn towards the end, he's getting less and less good at hiding that he's not really a girl and that he's not reacting the way that somebody should. And if he had been himself right from the very beginning, he might very well have won it. But it was interesting because it took a while for them to find out. And not only that, but I thought it was interesting that the initial group, and he was part of it, playing Rebecca, the initial group didn't see it. They kind of went, okay, so there's going to be a catfish. They never thought there'd be multiple catfish in the beginning. And then you bring in Ed, who's a brand new person who had an outsider's view. And Ed right away went, that person's not real. There's no way that person is real. And I thought that was really interesting because, again, and it reminded me of that situation I was talking about, where this was somebody I had just started talking to, and right away I went, that's not right, right? That's not that. No, that person's not who they say they are. And the other people who hadn't picked up on it had been talking to her for way longer than I had. And then once I mentioned it, it clicked where they went, you know what? He's right. She never wants to actually see people. She's never, and I said, have you ever even had a voice chat with, no. Have you ever, and that was, it was another thing where I'm like, well, at least a voice chat, or do you want to, we could do like a video chat? No, nothing. So, yeah, these are strange, strange days we live in. And with all of the distancing we're doing and the self-isolating and all that, people might get bored. We might see more catfish. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching and for 20-minute ramble and all that other wonderful stuff. Thank you guys for sticking around if you did. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And with the views that the cat video got last night and this morning so far, I have no problem making more cat videos. I do want to make sure that I'm providing content for everybody who needs a bit of a distraction right now, something to cheer them up, something else to talk about, and I have no problem providing that. I know I went through, my own personal issues years back that I have made no effort to hide, and so right now, as the whole globe seems to be going through some stuff, and I kind of feel like I'm more insulated than a lot of other people are going to be watching this. Then I'm very, very grateful, and so this is kind of the way for me to give back as much as I can. And again, my wife is making these masks. They have started calling for them at the local hospital as well, so she'll be making them for them as well. Free patterns being given out for these, and yeah, I will wear it, and that is of course Gritty, the mascot for the Philadelphia Flyers. So yep, it's a whole new world. And we're all figuring out how to live in it. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Do hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. I will talk to you again soon.